The river was swollen with the heavy rains of the season, its waters churning in restless fury, brown waves crashing against the banks as if trying to swallow the earth itself. The forest around it was drenched, leaves dripping with fresh rain, the soil soft and muddy beneath the weight of passing animals. Birds perched high above the raging current cried warnings, their wings twitching nervously at the sight of what was unfolding below. A cheetah, sleek, golden, and usually the master of speed on land, was struggling helplessly in the water, its thin body tossed like a rag doll by the strength of the river. Every desperate attempt to claw its way to the bank was defeated by another violent surge that pulled it deeper into the flood. Its amber eyes, wide with panic, searched for something, anything to hold onto, but there was nothing but water. From the path that ran along the river's edge, a man appeared. His name was Raghav, a traveler who had wandered into this stretch of wild land searching for solitude, for silence away from the crowded city he called home. He carried little with him, just a small pack, a water flask, and a stick to steady his steps on the muddy ground. But when his gaze fell upon the cheetah thrashing in the river, something primal and unexplainable surged within him. The forest had been silent company to him for weeks, but this was different. This was a call. For a heartbeat, fear rooted him to the ground. It was madness, he thought, to throw himself into that water, to risk his life for a wild predator that might turn on him the moment it touched solid ground. Yet as the cheetah's head dipped under the water and rose again with a weaker gasp, he moved without thinking. He tore off his pack, dropped the stick, and plunged into the river. The cold struck him first, biting into his muscles, slowing his movements. The current was stronger than he imagined, dragging at his legs, spinning him sideways as he fought toward the cheetah. He could see its spotted body now just a few feet away, barely afloat, its limbs flailing in blind panic. He lunged forward, his hands locking around the animal's thin torso, feeling the wild strength that even in drowning it still carried. The cheetah's claws raked across his arm, tearing skin, and its teeth snapped dangerously close to his face, but Raghav didn't let go. With gritted teeth, he pulled, kicking against the river's grip, dragging both himself and the cheetah toward the muddy bank. It felt like hours, though it was only minutes. The river resisted, pulling them downstream, slamming them against half-submerged rocks. Blood mixed with the water where the cheetah's claws had struck him, but finally his feet struck firm earth. With one last heave, he shoved the cheetah onto the bank and collapsed beside it, both of them coughing, gasping, alive. The cheetah lay on its side, sides heaving with effort, water dripping from its whiskers. For a long moment, predator and man stared at each other, bound by a fragile thread of survival. The forest seemed to hold its breath. Slowly, the cheetah struggled to its feet, its legs trembling. Raghav expected it to run, to vanish into the undergrowth, leaving him with nothing but scars as proof of what had happened. But it didn't. Instead, it stood there, staring, its golden eyes fixed on him with something that almost looked like recognition. Raghav raised a shaking hand as if to calm it, though he knew the danger of such closeness. To his surprise, the cheetah did not attack. It lowered its head slightly, as if acknowledging something unspoken, before turning away into the forest, disappearing between the trees as silently as it had come. Raghav sat there, his body aching, his arm bleeding, and his heart racing. He had saved a life, and in that act he felt something stir inside him, an old, forgotten truth about the bond between man and nature. He thought it was over. He thought the river would be the end of this strange chapter. But it wasn't. For in saving the cheetah, he had unknowingly crossed an invisible boundary, one that would soon demand a price he could never have imagined. That night, he returned to his small hut on the forest's edge, a place built from wood and thatch where he had spent the past weeks. The rain had stopped and the moon painted the land silver. He cleaned his wounds, bandaged them as best he could, and tried to sleep. But his dreams were restless, filled with glowing golden eyes watching him from the darkness, filled with the sound of water rushing endlessly. He woke before dawn, uneasy. At first the forest seemed the same. Birds sang, monkeys screeched, the air smelled of damp leaves. But as he walked to fetch water from a nearby stream, he noticed something strange. Silence. The usual chorus of small animals faded the deeper he went. And then he saw them. Not one, but 3 cheetahs stood at the edge of the clearing, their bodies tense, their eyes locked on him. The one in the middle bore a fresh scar along its side, exactly where he remembered grabbing the drowning cheetah. It was the same animal, and it had not come alone. Raghav froze, heart hammering. Gratitude, he thought, maybe it had returned with its family. But as the cheetahs crept closer, he saw no gratitude in their eyes. Only hunger. Only instinct. What he had done was unnatural. In the wild, the weak perish, the strong survive. By pulling the cheetah from the river, he had interfered with that order. The cheetah sensed it as if his act had marked him, not as a savior but as prey. The first one growled low, a rumbling sound that chilled him. He backed away slowly, hands raised, whispering to himself that he could escape, that he had to remain calm. But the moment he turned to run, they pounced. The forest exploded with movement, paws pounding the earth, snarls ripping through the air. Raghav sprinted, his body fueled by pure terror, but the cheetahs were faster, their bodies cutting through the grass like shadows. One leapt, claws scraping his back, dragging him to the ground. He screamed, struggling, pushing against their weight, but another sank its teeth into his leg. Pain blazed white-hot, and he knew this was the end. But then, just as suddenly as the attack began, it stopped. The cheetahs backed away, their ears twitching, their eyes darting to the trees. Something had startled them. Something bigger. From the shadows emerged lions, two massive males, their manes dark and heavy, their roars shaking the ground. The cheetahs hissed and bolted, vanishing into the forest. Raghav lay trembling, bleeding, staring at the lions who now stood before him. His life hung by a thread. Had he been saved, or had he simply fallen into the jaws of something worse? The lions studied him in silence, their golden eyes unreadable. And then, with a grunt, they turned and walked away, leaving him alive, broken but alive. Raghav would later drag himself back to his hut, his body shattered but his mind haunted. He had thought saving the cheetah was an act of kindness, of courage. But the wild had shown him otherwise. In this world, every action has a consequence, and sometimes, what seems noble to us is unacceptable to nature itself.